It's amazing how you can watch a movie so many different times, listen to a song so many times, or read a book in the many, many times that you read it. And in some cases, you notice something that you didn't notice before, or something is pointed out to you, and you realize, oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Or, oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that really explains everything. Whether it's learning about facts on why a scene was done the way it was done, you know, the history of the movie, things like that, behind the scenes, things of that nature. I cannot tell you how many times I have watched the movie Rosemary's Baby. It's a good film. It's like a classic I wouldn't call it a horror film. I would call it more of a psychological, thriller. I think the horror factor is that it was based off a book, and the author took the time, a joyous time for a woman when, she finds that she's pregnant. It's supposed to be, a joyous occasion. The mother is going to be a mother, and, so he turned that sort of joy and flipped it over its head, and, oh, this child is evil, blah, 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 things of that nature. Basically, it's just, it's cruel, but in a good way. That's what makes it so suspenseful. It brings that motherly instinct of how do I protect my child from these forces that seem to do this child harm. And then come to find out, no, there's no harm coming to the child is the harm. So it's things of that nature. So like I said, I've seen that movie so many times, and they've been happy to give that movie so many times on TV. And like I said, I've actually noticed something that I didn't notice before. So basically, the story about Rosemary's Baby is that Rosemary Willehouse is married to Guy Willehouse. And he's a struggling actor, things like that. They meet the Cassavetes after a tragedy had struck. And they start getting close to the Cassavetes. And it turns out, as the story continues, the Cassavetes are of a coven. Or they're a coven, they work with, the dark arts and everything. Well, it seems like they made a deal with Guy, or Guy made a deal with them. And unfortunately, unbeknownst to Rosemary, she is nothing but a pawn. She is used as cattle to be a part of this deal without her even knowing. She didn't know what was going on. So, and once she gets pregnant and things of that nature, God gets the parts and things of that. But unfortunately, Rosemary starts to feel immense pain. She goes thinner. She's complaining about pain, and the doctor that they gave her, Dr. Saperstein, is, oh, it'll go away, blah, blah, blah. And then when she states that I'm going to go to a different doctor, to get an opinion, Guy loses it and he goes all over. First off, any sane person, I get it's a movie, but in reality, if your wife or anyone is in that much pain, and clearly the doctor's not doing what they're supposed to do, any sane person will be like, okay, let's go. This is not normal. But it just goes to show that Guy really only cared about his career. He didn't care about his wife. He just cared about, oh, well, this has to be done. This has to be done. So, if Guy was smart, he really did care. He would have gone, he was like, what the hell is going on with my wife? I did this, this, and this. I did exactly what she should have been in pain, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what happens. The part that I have noticed was, like I said, I've seen this movie so many times, but she states to Guy after he gets the part, because he ends up getting the parts when the original person who had the role, the original performer who had the role, suddenly goes blind and he is offered the role. And she mentions to him, you haven't been looking at me. Guy goes, what do you mean I haven't been looking at you? He goes, no, you have. She goes, no, you haven't. So I can't help but feel that, when he probably made the deal, I think what happened was he jokingly made the deal. Or just say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's see what happens. Because he does get a tie. You later find out in the film, he trades a tie with the guy who was the original person for the part. And gave him the tie, and they did their, hacks and everything. And the guy went blind, and he gets the part. I think when Guy did that, he thought, oh, there must be a bunch of hoo-ha, whatever, huggabaloo, jibber jabber. But when it happens, he kind of realized that face and everything. He kind of realized, like, shoot, I gotta pay the piper. That's what it looks like. I have to pay the piper. Oh shoot, like I gotta do this. Oh, I didn't think this was gonna happen. That's what I think that was. I think he realized, oh shoot, I gotta pay the piper. I gotta pay my dues. I can't tell my wife about it. I gotta pay my dues. Who knows? Who knows if he was told, hey, don't tell the wife or anything. So that's what I noticed. I think he probably made the deal without really thinking, and now he had to pay the piper. That's what I think. But of course, as his ego goes up and everything, he's like, he didn't care about Rosemary at all, poor girl. But I will say this, and this is just my head as someone who likes to make films and things, are like, what if this movie was about this? Or what if this movie went like this? If someone were to do some sort of reimagining of Rosemary or something like Rosemary, which I gotta give Rosemary props to the end. In the end, I gotta give her props. Because honestly, if that was me in that situation, no one would be leaving that room. They will not be leaving that room the way they came in. That's all I'm gonna say. No one will leave that room. You'll come in, but you ain't coming out. No, that's what I would have done. I would burn that whole room down if I had to. Ain't no way I was used like cattle. Flip the mat. That's what you get. You want to burn? I'll burn you. That's what I would do. Like I said, I would give her props. But what would be interesting is, like I said, if someone was to make a movie like that, okay, the beginning part, all right, and Rosemary goes to leave, or just like, I'm not listening to you guys at all, goes to the doctor and finds out the baby's obviously killing her. It's not, something like it's not working out. Of course, something has happened. She loses the baby. It would have been interesting if Guy kind of realized how much danger she was in. And when they lose the child, it would have been an interesting turn of events to see how the relationship with the Castavets would have been with the Willhouses. And then him realizing, no, we're done. I'm not doing this no more. Blah, blah, blah. Go do what you want. When they have the next child, obviously not with, the coven involved or everything, it seems that the coven wants a child. Hey, we asked for a child. We don't care how we get the child. We want the child. Even though this child may not have been that child, we want the piper has to still be paid, things like that. That would have been interesting. A way, like Guy got his common sense back and realizing, oh, I effed up big time. That would have been cool. But of course, that's not going to happen like that, Rosemary is Rosemary's Baby. Like I said, if someone was to make something like Rosemary Baby, but change it up like that would be really cool to see how much growth, Guy has, and kind of realizing how much of our actions, like we already know this, our actions have consequences, the good, the bad, the ugly. It would have been cool for him to realize kind of how, like, the redeeming qualities, like that redemption arc right then, gonna realize I need to protect my family. That's what I needed. I should have protected my wife from the beginning. I should have not had da-da-da. Even if I was Mr. Yamaha all my life, we were fine. That's what would have been cool. But it's not gonna happen like that. So, like I said, I've seen Rosemary's Baby so many different times. I had not noticed that part when she says, "You haven't been looking at me like you usually do." He was just, "I have." He's not looking at her because, he's not looking at her because he finds her unattractive or things like. He's not looking at her because he soon realized, oh, I gotta make this right or something. I gotta pay the piper. Do I tell her or do I not tell her? That's what that was. So in that scene alone, because he's learning how to do crutches, and that's when she says it. She's sitting on the couch, and he doesn't look at her and things like that. And then when the baby comes to, he has like, oh, okay, good, oh, like relieved. Like he doesn't seem happy with the baby, because even when there's a scene where she says, "Oh, the pain's gone, the pain's gone," and she puts his hand on him. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. He knew what that child was. He knew that child wasn't human. He knew that child wasn't even a child. But he still, you know what I mean? I don't know. I get it. It's a movie. It's just like selfish. But it's a movie. It's still a good movie. It's still entertaining. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. I keep watching it here. I like the pacing. The execution. It was released in 1968, which was kind of funny because in the 60s, it was a time of innovation until the late 60s hit, and that's when, all hell broke loose, and that's how the 70s was, the misguided, the age of chaos, things like that. That's why they call the 60s the dark ages, because there was a lot of sacrifice, but it was sacrifices that not many people themselves were making. It wasn't by choice. So that's why they call it the dark period, the pivotal moment that could have been, that was what sort of, each decade, each era is fixing the mistakes from their predecessor. So, that's what they say. But, yeah, the 70s didn't seem to know what they do. They didn't want to deal with what happened in the 60s, and that's why I guess some people would say we're still dealing with that. I don't know how true it is, but it does make you think. But yeah, so yeah, like I said with Rosemary's Baby, I noticed that pretty recently, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't notice that, and yet that explains everything. It adds more. Like they say, if you peel back the layers of the onion, you get down to the nitty gritty. And that's what I saw. So yeah, go watch Rosemary's Baby or not. It doesn't matter. But if you guys do watch it again, go to that part. It's like it's like a little after. How can I say? It's when after he finds out, guy finds out he gets the part on the phone because it's all happening over the phone. And so you'll find it there. But yeah, I think maybe like the 45-minute mark, because it's like a 2-hour long movie pretty much. Yeah, so it's like in the midway, and this is like after they meet the Castevets. This is after the guy meets the deal and things like that. So yeah, go check it out and see what I mean. Bye, guys.